Most people stepped into this day like it was just another Friday, another tick on the calendar, something routine, predictable. But already, some are starting to realize they spoke too soon, acted too freely, dismissed the strange undercurrent in the air. And now, they can't take it back. You might roll your eyes and say, "It's just superstition, just another Friday the 13th, as if the number alone could carry centuries of shadowed folklore. But tonight, the number isn't the point. What truly matters is what is spoken, and more importantly, what shouldn't be said. Because some truths can only be held in silence, and some forces respond not to noise but to stillness. There are days when reality feels thin, like something else presses against it, watching through the seams. This is one of those days. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're being tested. Not in loud, obvious ways, but in quiet, subtle ones. And if something about today feels off to you, if there's an unusual tension in the air or a twist in your thoughts, pay attention. That feeling isn't random. It's a signal. You can choose to write about it if you're drawn to reflect. If you feel moved to express it somehow, do it privately. You can even mark it 1313 if that number feels aligned with what today is showing you. But speak carefully, because every word matters more than usual. If you've been waiting for a sign, this might be it, but only if you're willing to observe without interrupting. Silence today is not emptiness. It's space being made for something else to move through. There's an insight hovering just out of reach, and it only drops into place when there is stillness, when you're no longer trying to grasp it, but simply allowing it to arrive. I'll explain why later, but for now, trust this. This is no ordinary Friday. Every Friday the 13th holds a message, but not everyone hears it. The day hides meaning inside patterns that look like accidents. It disguises warnings as coincidence. Some years, it helps clear the fog in your mind. Other years, like this one, it drops warnings like thunder right before the storm. This one is different. It carries confusion like static electricity, like something brushing past you but never quite seen. It's not anxiety. It's not your imagination. It's contact. It's the message trying to reach you from behind the veil, testing if you're paying close enough attention to what doesn't make sense at first glance. Maybe you've been second-guessing yourself lately. Maybe you looked at something ordinary and suddenly saw a crack in its surface. Maybe something felt just slightly off, not broken, but misaligned by a single unsettling degree. That shift is the signal. That's the whisper trying to get through. And here's the thing most people miss. Today carries a very particular energetic signature. It's precise, it's quiet, but alert. Focused, like eyes you can't see watching closely. If you've felt the urge to tell someone about your plans, your ideas, or the breakthroughs that are beginning to form in the background of your life, wait. Hold it. Not today. Because Friday the 13th, especially this one, does not respond kindly to revelations made prematurely. It's not because the universe wants to ruin what you're building. It's because some energy is still forming, still fragile. Some visions only survive if they remain unspoken until they are fully rooted. Speaking too soon invites distortion. It weakens the very thing you're trying to protect. This day is about quiet alignment, not performance, not premature celebration. You might feel like you're on the edge of something major, like all you need is for someone else to see it with you. But be cautious. Not everyone who listens is listening with love. Some listen with comparison, others with hunger. And energy, especially fragile beginnings, bends under too many eyes. So today, keep it close. Let your silence be your strength. Let your plans stay protected by mystery. The decisions you're making, the path you're carving, the steps you're about to take. They don't need confirmation right now. They need patience. They need to be held, not shared. There's a deeper reason for this, one most people never notice. On this day, words don't move like they normally do. They echo strange. You might say something with a pure heart, but the meaning lands somewhere else. Intentions warp. Momentum leaks out. What you build with your voice today may collapse before it ever gets the chance to stand. That's not failure. That's misalignment. So if you're tempted to announce something, to post, to call, to finally spill the details, resist it. This isn't about secrecy, it's about protection. And that protection only works if you trust the silence to carry what words can't yet hold. Today, mystery is not your enemy, it's your ally. But perhaps the most curious part of all comes not in daylight, but in sleep. When you close your eyes tonight, what comes through may not feel like a dream at all. It might look like nonsense, people out of place, symbols that blur as soon as you try to remember them. A word you've never heard before, looping like a song in your mind. But pay attention, some dreams are not messages, they're contracts. You may wake up with a strange sense of agreement in your body, like you said yes to something you don't quite remember. You might feel like something touched you, brushed past the edge of your awareness, and disappeared before you could name it. Let that feeling sit. Don't rush to label it or explain it away. Some truths come in fragments. Some awakenings are delayed on purpose. This day, and the night that follows, is not random. It's designed, deliberate in its confusion, sacred in its strangeness. What touches you in sleep is not random. The visions, sensations, or strange impressions that surface in the dream world are not merely products of imagination. They are fragments of something larger, something that couldn't fully reach you while your waking mind was alert and guarded. There are forces that prefer not to pass through logic, that bypass the intellect entirely, slipping instead through the cracks of consciousness when you're most open, when you're dreaming. What you experience tonight may not be dreams at all. They may be transmissions, deliveries of energy or insight that were waiting for the right moment to arrive. And no, you're not irrational for remembering strange details that don't seem to belong in your life, or for feeling an eerie sense of familiarity with faces you've never seen. That's not confusion, that's contact. You're touching something, or more accurately, something is touching you. But here's the truly strange part. Some won't remember anything from their dreams tonight. Nothing at all. And yet, they'll wake with a hollow feeling, like they were supposed to receive something, a message, a sign, and somehow it slipped away. But maybe it didn't slip away at all. Maybe it's still circling above them, waiting for the right frequency to land, waiting for them to notice. Something unseen is watching you tonight. But it's not observing what you do. It's observing what captures your attention. That thing you've kept coming back to all day, the image, the sound, the phrase, the fleeting thought that loops without explanation. It's not meaningless. You didn't consciously select it. In a way, it selected you. There's a kind of gravitational pull around it. Quiet but strong, threaded through the day like invisible silk. And this thread? The moon is weaving it. It doesn't crash through your awareness or demand your focus. It seduces. It tugs softly. It's intentional. The signals don't shout. They hum. And still, they are unmistakable to the part of you that's still listening beneath the surface. What captures you is not a distraction. It's a trail, a breadcrumb, a subtle method of communication between the spiritual and the material. Spiritual energy rarely announces itself clearly. It doesn't leave you written instructions or come with easy symbols you can decode like a puzzle. More often, it nudges, it glides behind your eyes, shifts your ears toward a sound, lingers your mind in moments you'd usually dismiss. If you're not tuned in to what holds your own attention, you'll miss it, especially tonight. Tonight is not about what you do. It's about what you notice. It's about what arrests your attention, what holds your gaze longer than it should, what makes you feel something you can't explain. That's not random. That's not nothing. That's a conversation, and your subconscious is responding before your conscious mind can catch up. So if something has been brushing against your awareness today, an odd memory, a strange coincidence, a repeated image, stop dismissing it. That thing you keep calling probably nothing might be everything. Look again. Listen closer. You were meant to notice it. The moon doesn't speak in questions. It simply follows your attention, measuring what you can't ignore. And the more you resist it, the louder it becomes. The full moon on June 11th didn't simply conclude. It didn't drift softly into the next phase like a story winding down. No, this one withdrew. It left abruptly, as if it exited the room mid-conversation, forgetting it still left a trace of itself behind. That departure wasn't clean. It left a residue, not something you can see or measure, but something you feel. A kind of spiritual afterglow. A presence that didn't get erased when the light shifted. If that full moon was a message, then what we are in now is the echo. And sometimes, what carries the most impact isn't what appears. It's what forgets to clean up after itself. That energy is lingering. It's heavy in the atmosphere today, June 13th. And if you're sensitive, if you're even slightly in tune, you'll feel it. Not through logic, not through sight or sound, but through the strange, the unexplained stillness in a room, the way time drags for a breath too long, the sudden recall of something you never lived. It's not your imagination. It's a trace, a whisper in the atmosphere. Some will feel this in their bodies, a pressure that isn't physical but temporal. Others will feel it in the air around them, as if something is watching not them, but what they're watching. It's subtle, but it's real. And no, it's not for everyone. Only those tuned to this frequency, those sensitive enough to pick up what others overlook, will even register the shift. And here's the twist. This message isn't arriving in language. It isn't spelled out. It's revealed in what's absent, in what's been left behind, the missing piece, the thing that should be here, but isn't. That's the message. Sometimes, what speaks the loudest is the silence where something used to be. So ask yourself, what did the moon take when it vanished? What didn't it put back? And more importantly, what can you still feel that nobody else is talking about? If you find it, if you tune in and really see what was left behind, you'll understand. This wasn't just another moon phase. It was a departure, an exit that was never fully completed. And now what remains is waiting. Waiting for someone to notice. Waiting for someone to respond. There are certain truths that are not meant to be preserved. Not today. Today carries a strange gravity, an unseen tide pulling just beneath the surface of everything. It hums through the air in broken phrases, unfinished thoughts, flickering intuitions that seem to rise from nowhere and vanish just as quickly. You may feel as if you've stumbled upon a revelation, a name, a line of perfect insight, a concept that feels larger than you. And your first reflex might be to reach for something, a pen, a phone, a keyboard, anything that lets you trap it before it slips away. But resist that urge. Today isn't like most days. What you're feeling, what's brushing past the edges of your mind, isn't imagination. It's a signal, subtle, sacred, and not meant to be stored. It's part of a greater current, one that moves beyond logic or language. Trying to capture it, to lock it down in words, is like trying to press your palm into smoke and preserve its shape. It won't work. Some insights aren't meant to be held. They're meant to pass through you, like wind moving through an open window, stirring the air for only a moment before it continues on its way. The moon, in the peculiar liminal state it inhabits tonight, retreating but not yet gone, acts like a mirror held up in fog. It reflects, but never clearly. What it offers you now isn't truth in its final form, but suggestion, impression, a shifting echo. Write it down, and you don't preserve it. You distort it. You fix it in place too soon while it's still forming, and it bends into something it was never meant to be. You might think you're recording something pure, but what you're really doing is interrupting a transmission midstream and forcing it into a form it wasn't ready for. That isn't creation. That's containment. And anything contained before its time begins to decay. Unfinished truths turn sour when they're trapped too early. They stagnate, confuse, lose their clarity. What felt like inspiration can curdle into heaviness. It lingers as a ghost of itself, whispering half-thoughts into your next idea, disrupting your clarity, infecting your flow. The mind is a river, always in motion, always renewing itself. But the page is concrete. It stops things. It freezes them in a moment that may not be the right one. So let it go. Let today's revelations rise and vanish like mist on a morning field. Yes, it feels backward. Yes, it may feel like you're losing something. But not all losses are losses. Some truths are like seeds that blow away, not to be lost, but to find better soil. If you try to claim them before they're ready, they won't grow. They'll harden into something lifeless, something foreign to the moment that birthed them. Instead, listen deeply. Let yourself be moved. Let the energy stir your imagination without forcing it into form. If what comes to you is meant to return, it will. And when it does, it will arrive whole, matured, sharpened, ready. But if you force it now, you may disfigure it. And worse, you may invite in something that doesn't belong to you at all. There's a rhythm underneath the surface of our lives, one most people never sense. A kind of spiritual timing that doesn't follow clocks or calendars. It ticks silently in the background, only aligning under rare conditions, when hidden forces meet at precise points. Tonight is one of those nights. A full moon, pulling back into shadow, and the ominous alignment of Friday the 13th. A pairing not of myth, but of mechanism. When these two cross paths, something ancient stirs. This isn't folklore. This isn't a bedtime story or an old superstition tucked into worn pages. This is a threshold. Not a place, but a frequency. A space in between what you know and what's always been waiting beneath that knowing. Tonight, something has opened. Not with spectacle, but with silence. A silence so dense it feels as though it's watching you back. You may feel it in small, inexplicable ways. A pause in your breath mid-sentence. a moment of stillness that arrives without cause, a strange pressure behind your thoughts, like something adjusting in a room you can't see. The 13th seal, as it's been quietly called, is not a symbol or a story. It is a veil, a membrane between worlds, and tonight, it's thinner than usual. When that veil shifts, information leaks through, but not in full sentences, not in visions or prophecies. No, that would be too easy. It arrives as feeling, as weight, as distortion in your memory, as a flicker of recognition without any reason to explain it. You may feel like something is off, like a picture that's been moved slightly on the wall, or a familiar room that suddenly feels unfamiliar. This is not fear, it's contact. And the messages that arrive through this kind of contact aren't meant to be broadcast. They aren't made for captions, for notes apps, for journal entries or voice memos. These impressions aren't content, they're communion. And communion doesn't survive exposure. Some things must remain unspoken to retain their truth. Some nights aren't for sharing, they're for holding, for honoring, for remembering, quietly and alone. So tonight, don't try to write it down. Don't try to name it or define it or squeeze it into a form your mind can understand. Let it be what it is, a presence, a whisper, a knowing without proof. If it's meant to shape you, it will do so without needing to be seen. Let this night mark you silently, not with declarations, but with a sacred stillness. Not with answers, but with awe. Because some doors, once opened, don't close cleanly. Some insights, once pulled too soon into the light, unravel. But if you let them remain in the dark a little longer, they might just become something whole. And that wholeness, when it finally finds its way back, will be yours to carry. There is something ancient and quietly unfolding in the background of this night, a sacred unraveling taking place just beyond the grasp of language. It's not spoken, not transmitted through the usual channels of communication. Instead, it moves like breath through the veil of the unseen. It travels quietly, densely, like a scent on a spiritual wind. And when it finds you, you don't need proof. You don't need to analyze. You simply know. You may not even be searching, and still, it arrives. In the pause between your thoughts, in the mundane act of brushing your teeth, in the middle of a conversation when your mind drifts suddenly, inexplicably, and lands somewhere that makes no logical sense. Yet somehow, that moment feels more truthful than anything you've ever consciously concluded. Sometimes it comes disguised as a memory that isn't yours, a fragment of something ancient and inexplicable, like a message passed down through lineage across generations without ever being spoken. This is not information. It is not meant to be filed away or stored for recall. This is inheritance, sacred, encrypted inheritance. And it matters. It matters in a way you can't fully explain. And here's where it becomes serious. What is given to you tonight is meant only for you, entirely, utterly. It's not to be shared, no matter how much you trust the person beside you. Speaking it aloud doesn't just risk diluting it, it reshapes it. Not because the truth is weak, but because it was never intended to be replicated or distributed. It was never meant to grow outward. It is not a seed, it is a seal. And seals are sacred because they protect. Once you expose what you've received to the air of another person's understanding, even with the purest intentions, it begins to bend. It warps, not because it loses truth, but because not all knowing is meant for others. Some truths are delivered on personalized frequencies, tailored vibrations meant only to echo within the borders of your awareness. To share it is to tear it. To explain it is to dissolve it. So if you're feeling something profound rise up in you tonight, resist the impulse to trap it in language. Don't try to crystallize it in writing. Don't tether it to the page, hoping to preserve it. Let it breathe instead. Let it settle. Let it take root in your intuition, not your identity. Don't claim it. Let it become you, quietly. Because here's the paradox. What you receive tonight might not make sense. Yet. And it's not supposed to. Not now. These aren't puzzle pieces you're meant to arrange into a picture. They're time-locked codes, energetic messages that your future self will be uniquely qualified to interpret. But only if the seal remains unbroken. Only if the purity of its arrival is honored by your silence. Treat this moment like you would a name whispered once by a ghost, heard in the silence between heartbeats, meant only for your ears. It carries a weight that no language could ever hold. And like mist touched by hands, some truths evaporate the moment you try to make them make sense. So let tonight be different. Let tonight be the night you stop reaching for clarity. Let it be the night you make peace with mystery. Let it be the night you honor the privacy of the message. If you do, it won't vanish. It will deepen. It will continue to unfold within you, like a book written in invisible ink, revealing its pages one by one in moments of quiet presence. But if you speak it too soon, if you perform it, if you try to possess it rather than receive it, you will fracture the bond. And what comes after will never quite feel the same again. Tonight, the moon does not roar. It doesn't shout for your attention. It asks something rare of you, your silence. Not just the absence of sound, but real silence. The kind where you stop grasping, stop scripting, stop trying to translate the sacred into something safe. Silence is not emptiness. It's invitation. An open space where interference falls away and only presence remains. Every attempt you make right now to interpret what you're feeling becomes a veil between you and the rawness of the truth. We're so used to naming every sensation, packaging every insight into something others can understand. But not everything sacred is meant to be understood. Some things are meant to be held. And tonight, this sacred transmission will only reach those who are willing to receive without asking, to trust without demanding answers. The moon tonight is not a spotlight. It is a sealed chamber, and only those who stop knocking will find that it slowly, wordlessly opens. That's why monks meditate in stillness. That's why sacred rituals begin not with words, but with a hush. Silence isn't used because they have nothing to say. It's because silence makes space for something else to enter. Something unfiltered. Something true. And tonight, Friday the 13th, this stillness holds a particular kind of power. Not the kind that dazzles, the kind that listens back, but only if you are willing to stop performing for it. If you're trying to get something out of this night, you won't. But if you simply sit with it, truly sit, and let your breathing soften, your thoughts loosen their grip, you might begin to notice things, the way shadows change across the floor in slow choreography, the way the air feels denser, almost charged, the sudden hush that falls in a space that was just full of noise. That's not random. That's the message, arriving without needing to be named. Silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of listening. And here's the truth no one tells you. When you go quiet, truly quiet, not only do you begin to hear the world differently, the world begins to hear you. Your body becomes an instrument, a tuning fork for subtle truths. Your mind becomes soft enough to receive something raw and unmediated. The moon doesn't speak in words. It responds. And tonight, it is listening. Listening for those who are still enough, honest enough, humble enough to be heard. So stay quiet. Not because there's nothing to say, but because something sacred, something real, is finally ready to speak. And if you stay open, if you remain still long enough, you might just hear what it has been holding back all along. You didn't find this message by accident. You didn't arrive here by algorithm. This is not coincidence. You were meant to feel this, tonight. You didn't just stumble upon this video by chance. No, this wasn't a random flick of the algorithm or a meaningless scroll stop. This video didn't find you accidentally. It was meant for you. And that's not a poetic flourish. It's truth, plain and subtle. The moment your eyes landed here, something deep within, older than memory and beyond reason, stirred. It recognized a signal. It felt a pull. There's a frequency embedded in this day, woven into the atmosphere like a barely perceptible hum. Most people will move right past it, unaware of the subtle vibration calling out beneath the surface. But not you. You felt it, even if you couldn't put it into words. Something ancient aligned with you before your conscious mind even realized what was happening. This isn't coincidence. It's resonance. It's the quiet echo of a forgotten knowing, the vibration of a hidden chord playing just for those who are finally ready to remember. Moments like this are not about learning something new. They're about remembering something old, something sacred, something that was always inside you, just waiting to be seen. When the moon rises on a day like the 13th, energies shift. Portals open, not the kind seen with eyes, but the kind felt in the marrow. Certain souls become activated, not through logic or names or stories, but through sensation, through a deep, unmistakable recognition that can't be explained, but also can't be denied. You didn't come here looking for information. What brought you here was far more mysterious and personal. You were responding to a call, a signal broadcast from the unseen. There are truths that don't reveal themselves until they are seen by the right eyes. And there are people who don't truly awaken until they are recognized by something outside of time, or perhaps by themselves in a new light. Now that you're here, something has shifted, something has opened. You can't unfeel this moment. Because what just happened wasn't content, it was contact. The moon didn't simply rise into the night sky, it reached out. It saw you. And once you've been seen like this, once a hidden thread is tugged, it can't be untangled. You've been touched by something old, something real, and the only question that remains is, what happens when what you've remembered begins to remember you too? If you're still with me, thank you, truly. Your presence here means more than you might realize. If this message resonated with something deep within, consider subscribing so we can keep walking this path together. Your support makes all the difference, and if you feel called to, share your thoughts or your experiences in the comments below. You never know who might need to hear your voice, your story, your truth. Until we meet again, stay aware, stay open, and remember, some things don't speak in words. They awaken in silence. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.